Brilliant, Jason. Thanks so much for coming on. Would love to know a little bit about your background and career to date, and perhaps tell us a little bit about that, and then also your role.
Cheers, Steve. Great to be here. So yeah, a bit of an unconventional path into media, I guess. I started off in B2B sales, so recruitment, then commercial property, believe it or not. Then there was a big financial crash, and I ended up losing my job and trying to figure out what I wanted to do. I ended up going to a national account manager role in a small toy company.
All right, interesting.
Believe it or not. And my role was to sell toys to the likes of John Lewis, to
Brilliant. So you've been a supplier.
Yes.
Fantastic.
Exactly. And I think that's why everything I do is so rooted in actual commercials.
Okay.
And commerce. But what that role really helped me to do was to develop my skills with e-commerce, and particularly Amazon. So they didn't sell to Amazon. And I basically onboarded Amazon from end to end. So that was setting up over 600 different SKUs on the Amazon kind of platform, doing all of the descriptions and all of the e-commerce basics, to deciding how they should be packaged in our fulfillment warehouse, and how we needed to send them to Amazon, and inner box barcodes and outer box barcodes, and how our POs should be set up, and all of this stuff. Brilliant. Down to the commercials of everything as well. Now, Hasbro was searching for someone who knew e-commerce and could do Amazon. And so they recruited me. And that was a really good transformational journey for me, because that took what I was doing at a small scale to the biggest toy manufacturer globally. And I was able to grow the Amazon sales 5 or 6 fold.
Amazing.
Till it actually became the number one account in Europe. Now, Toys R Us going bust might have had something to do with that as well, but I'll take it. And from this, I started to dabble in the Amazon ads space. And at the time, I think we were the very first, or one of the first vendors to actually do AMS, which is what sponsored ads is now. Okay. At the time, it was AMS, Amazon Marketing Services. And that was the sponsored ads that you see within the search results. And they didn't even have invoicing at the time. We were buying these with my parents' credit card, because it was just set up for sellers, not vendors. So they didn't have that kind of enterprise scale, but they had a good product. So that then took me to getting hired by Wavemaker, which took me into the agency world to then provide that consultancy and that knowledge gap between media, retail media, and e-commerce. That was great. I then got hired by Publicis to kind of do the same on a bigger scale. Stayed at Publicis for 3.5 years, and now I'm back with WPP.
Brilliant! No, it's a fantastic journey. Do you miss being a vendor or a supplier?
No, I gotta be honest. I did. I enjoyed it. I really, really enjoyed it. I learnt a lot. I think when you're on the brand side, you spend a lot of time reporting up, and I've felt like sometimes my creativity is a bit stifled. I think I'm one of those people who likes to be set a challenge and have a problem to solve, and then think creatively to try and solve it. And I'm really fortunate in my role at WPP at the moment that I have the space to do that and design things. So
tell us about that role then. What is the scope of the role?
Great question. So I'm global head of commerce solutions at WPP Media. So then the next question I'm going to anticipate, what does that mean? Which is what everyone asks me. So our media solutions division is a non-standard media side of our business. So clients will opt in to this service. It's a special service. And what we will offer, you can't buy off the shelf with another media owner, even in our agency or via another agency.
So these are solutions that are unique to WPP.
Exactly. And we can make it unique in several different ways. It might be a piece of our technology that we integrate into the workflow. So that might be a planning tool, or that might be a bidding script that we use for optimization. So I think we've already integrated our media optimization with 4 or 5 DSPs.
Okay.
So that's how that can work. Or we can either change the unit of measurement, which is why we talk a lot about outcome media and outcome marketing, because we really try to get to the crux of the challenge that the client and the advertiser is trying to solve, and the objective that they have, and that might not be able to be met unless we can bring in additional units of measurement, additional data, and really link it to business outcomes.
And are the solutions, Jason, are they primarily aimed at clients, or would they be used by other people within WPP, or maybe both?
So clients. So this is all geared towards clients who have got specific objectives and want to go a level deeper in their media efforts than just sort of off the shelf media, which does a great job. But say, for example, if we wanted to go beyond just being able to buy, say, a connected TV campaign on a certain reach and frequency and meeting all of those goals, and say, right, actually what we can do with this is we can connect this to, say, Circana data, for example, and we can then start mapping the geo targeting to geo areas and store locations where you might be under indexing. Your brand may be under indexing within the category share. Things like that. And that can be quite nicely linked to things like digital out of home as well, which is also geo targeted. And then we can get that data back, see if we move the needle or not.
So these solutions then are primarily being used by clients, and then I guess then presumably for the most part they would be CPG brands. Is that right?
We have a real mix. We have a real mix, and we tailor what we're offering based on the category vertical, I guess. I mean, we are.
And what verticals do you play in? So
CPG is very prominent with us. Obviously, having the likes of Nestle, Unilever, etc. But also, it might be quick service restaurants, for example. It might be an actual retailer. That we're working with, and the goal for that retailer might be, actually, we want to get more people into your stores within these locations. So again, like the example I gave earlier, that's another prime example of what we can do with this type of approach.
So your clients in a retail media context can be the retailers as well as the CPG.
Absolutely, and retail media is a part of what I do, but it's not what I do in total. I think obviously within the industry, it's what I'm well known for. But retail media for us would be taking that approach if it meets the objective and it can solve for the advertising goal of our client, we'll use it. But if not, then we have other means to kind of do it. And what I love is that retail media is set a very, very high benchmark in terms of accountability for media. And I mentioned this on a panel last week. I said I'm actually obsessed with trying to bring that level of accountability, that level of data, that level of outcome, to all media.
Okay, interesting.
And it's a big challenge.
I mean, that's really interesting because a lot of retailers would be familiar with the frustration that sometimes is vented on them, that they don't provide brands with the data that brands want from other media. But you're kind of implying that actually, no, you can help
Mm-hmm.
media benefit from retail media, if I've understood that correctly.
Yeah, absolutely, because it's an approach. It's a blueprint, and that's why we've seen retail media explode in popularity. I mean, the crazy for me, if we think about retail media revenue 10 years ago being $21 billion globally, and for this year we're forecasting $191 billion globally. So 2026 versus 2016.
Yeah.
That's really quite the jump. And in terms of share, that $21 billion was 4% share of total advertising revenue back then, and now we're looking at 16%.
16%.
That's according to our proprietary research. I know a lot of the numbers and how it's measured is slightly different, but I think you just get the sheer scale of growth is phenomenal.
So when you see that rate of growth, and you see the absolute size of it now, and obviously you're an important part of WPP's kind of global empire, let's call it that. But how are WPP thinking about retail commerce media? And I'm assuming that they want to capture as much of that, of those billions as they can. And, tell us a little bit, without breaking any commercial confidences, how are WPP going about that?
It's a good question. And I was really happy to see a few weeks ago that we announced the launch of WPP Commerce as a practice. So this is the second ever WPP practice approach. I think the one we already have is WPP Health, I think. Now, what this does is it brings all of the elements of commerce together, and retail media being a very, very important one of those categories. Now, WPP is divided into 4 operating units, if you like. So you have media, you have creative, production, and enterprise services. So if you think media is obviously media buying, creative is where we come up with the big ideas for brands and ads. Production is creating content at scale, and enterprise solutions are things like CRM, loyalty, just different parts of kind of the commerce ecosystem.
Yeah. Which bit do you sit in?
So I sit in media, as WPP Media. But the point being is that we are now all united by this practice, and the barriers that may have unintentionally existed before, because you sat in one operating unit versus another, but you both have commerce capabilities. Those will start to fade with this approach, and that's really, really exciting. So from a retail media perspective, firstly, that approach is about integrating capabilities internally.
Okay,
and that for me is really, really important. So, for example, we could have a media campaign, and if we're doing the creative for that brand via our creative operating unit as well, we can just make sure that everything is synced exactly how it needs to be, which is great. And then I think the other approach that we have is integration of capabilities via partnerships.
Okay.
And that's a really, really important part of our approach.
Who would be the typical partners that you might?
I have a great example, actually, because the Drum Commerce Media Awards were run recently in Miami. And I think they were run alongside the Possible event. I didn't get to go out there. No FOMO. But we actually won the Grand Prix award, and that was alongside our partners Kenshu, Sky, and Incremental.
Okay.
And this example was for Church and Dwight, our client in the US.
Is that the toothpaste? And
Arm and Hammer.
Arm & Hammer.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the baking soda toothpaste.
Yeah.
I think they go, wow, like that. I remember the old ads. So maybe they don't do them anymore. And that's when I was younger. But what it did was it brought the combination of us controlling, the media plans, the retail media buying.
Okay.
Incremental is sales data, but it's causal sales data. So therefore, incremental by name, incremental
Is that
by
a
nature.
WP agency or is that
No,
that's an independent?
I believe it's I'm not sure who owns them, but I believe it's an independent data company. But they can give us reads on what is causal in relation to media activity and outcome.
Okay.
So we use that as the signal. And then Country Sky, obviously, as a bid modifying platform, could automate the bids, and we could do this on a weekly basis.
Okay.
And get that going. And it drove great uplift
Nice.
for Arm & Hammer. And I believe Arm & Hammer was actually under some pressure at the time in terms of sales and losing share to competitors. And we were able to help them get them back to where they needed to be through this.
Okay, great example. And so how much or how do you, I guess, split the focus between trying to get existing clients like Church and Dwight to spend more, I guess, with you or provide a broader range of services to your existing clients versus winning new ones?
So winning the new business side of things, it's relatively separate to what I do.
Okay, so you'll mostly focus on the existing clients.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we'll have a whole kind of growth team. A lot of senior level people, client leadership level people, who will get involved in that. Plus SMEs who need to be there because there'll be like a social element to the brief, an influencer element, a commerce and retail media element. All of these elements need to come together and be aligned. But my focus is purely on ensuring that we keep having innovation within commerce solutions that we can bring to market, that we're absolutely scaling the current capabilities within commerce solutions that we already have, and like you mentioned, making sure that our clients are utilizing them as much as possible.
Okay, so if a big CPG existing client came to you and said, look, we think our existing media's going fine, but we're not where we want to be on retail media. It's growing really, really fast. Help us do better. Have you got is there a playbook as such that you would sort of trot out or certain things that you would look for to diagnose and steer them in a certain direction?
Yeah, I'm smiling because you said playbook. And I kind of, that playbook normally triggers me because they're a bit of a pet hate of mine. Brilliant. And I think, I think they're great at a tactical level, but there's no one size fits all.
Okay.
And where I would always start is to figure out what exactly does the advertiser need to get from retail media, and then contextualize that in relation to where do they actually sit at the moment. I mean, the approach for a market leading brand versus a top 5 brand versus a challenger that's trying to break in is very, 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 very different.
Yeah.
And then you've got all of these different tools at your disposal offered through retail media, which is why it's such a great category, because I can't even say channel because retail media encompasses.
It's an aggregation of channels, isn't it? Yeah, it's probably 5 or 6 different channels.
I think that's what confuses people as well. But yeah, based on all of these things, you would then need to figure out exactly what they would need to do, and WPP is about being the trusted growth partner for our clients. So you can't treat any 2 clients the same because, you know, even if they are very, very similar, there's going to be nuance there, and you need to take that into account in relation to how you plan.
I guess in traditional media, you're primarily dealing with, via media agencies, with, media channel owners. And not to say that that hasn't got its challenges, but in some ways it's a lot more straightforward than in retail media, where obviously the retailer is the channel owner and the media seller, you're looking to advise your client. But it isn't just your client's marketing team you're advising, because, of course, we've got this other entity called the sales commercial team or customer team or however they're called, who typically have been the guardians of all things retail within their companies, but also are spenders, very, very heavy spenders on, from the retailer's point of view, retail media too. How do you navigate those? Is that an opportunity, or does it create complexity?
It does create complexity, but at the same time, it's a big opportunity.
Big opportunity.
It's a really big opportunity. I think what helps with me, and I mentioned my working history earlier, is that I've sat on that side.
You've been on that side.
Yeah. So when I was at Hasbro, I was actually part of the commercial and sales team, and there's always banter between the sales team and the marketing team. I think one of our favorite terms was, that good marketing fluff. But yeah, retail media commerce bridges these worlds.
Okay.
And what I've noticed, particularly in the last 12 months, is that the conversations now industry-wide are really gearing up and driving this debate of trade versus marketing and media. And that for me is really, really interesting. And I think some of the research that we did via IB, we conducted a load of interviews, and for anyone who doesn't know, I'm the chair of IB Europe's Retail and Commerce Media Committee.
That's right, yeah,
as well. So fortunate to be sort of close to a lot of this research and work. Was that there's a few businesses who are very forward thinking in this. Instead of having separate stakeholders that are a little bit of friction there and a little bit in conflict and maybe fighting over budgets, a little bit, is that you have one executive who controls across the board, across both of these things. So trade and media in relation to commerce and retail media. And, it could be like a chief customer officer or a chief experience officer or something along those lines. And with that has just brought far better alignment.
Yeah, I can imagine. But I would think those roles are quite unusual, because it's certainly still the case, I think, in many CPGs, that the sales, or the customer as they call it, arm might go all the way to the boardroom to a chief sales, chief revenue, chief customer officer, and marketing all the way up to a CMO. Yeah. And, there's sometimes some coming together between the two, but, often not. Yeah.
I think it's a really interesting space for us to watch. I think, like I said earlier, the approach that retail media has brought in terms of ultimate accountability for marketing spend to a commercial result, I think these conversations are going to get more and more prominent.
Yeah, no, I think so.
And I think we were at the same event last week, and on the panel, I did mention the famous quote. I can't remember exactly who it's from, but it was around the 50% of my marketing works. I'm just not sure which.
I think it was originally Lord Leverhulme was one of the people to whom that was been attributed, but there's probably others actually. But
I knew that you would know that, so I'm happy I brought it up. But yeah, just sort of to put that within the context of today and the abundance of data that we have and the abundance of technology that we have. No one should be accepting that these days, because I feel like it's more institutional, the issue, and attitudinal, not technical. So yeah, it's great to see retail media leading the charge in relation to that level of accountability. And like I said, I think that will spread to other channels.
I mean, interestingly, most of our work is on the retail side of the fence, and many retailers will say that they get a little bit frustrated because the commercial teams, to the what half of my advertising is working or not, tend to judge or measure retail media from a sales point of view. So it's working if my sales go up, and if my sales aren't going up as a result of the campaign, then the campaign hasn't worked, which of course is not the way that your media teams look at media. And you could, whether they could or not, you can debate, but it tends to be the case that they're looking at impressions and, have I served my ad to the audience that I intended it to at a certain frequency, and can I be sure of that? That makes it very, very difficult for retailers to know how best to provide advertisers with the right data to answer the right question.
It's such a great point, and it was a nice segue from my previous point, which I'm going to revisit in response, because it was always the advertising side and the brand side and the awareness side is driving long-term impact. Now, what is done on retail media has always been viewed as very short-term impact. Now, I feel like there's somewhere where they can start to meet in the middle a bit more, and the awareness metrics and marketing approaches are still valid and very important. And I'm not saying that one is more important over the other. I'm saying what's the sweet spot? How much awareness do we need to drive, or how much demand do we need to create, and then how much of our overall budget do we use to harvest that demand? As much as we can. And I think the brands who can crack that, with the right mix of media, will be in a really, really good place. But I think at the moment, they call marketing mix modeling MMMs, very much based on a world without sales accountable media, because they're done really in the absence of that. So you probably this probably calls for new modeling that takes.
I think there's a lot of innovation in that space. We've probably got something to say on that, but I think some of the techniques behind MMM, but where it's typically been run on small data sets, can now be applied to the world of retail media, where the data sets are much, much richer, much more granular. I think it's quite exciting. And I think we would sort of advocate for not just looking at the media MMM, but also the kind of the category, the physical availability side of things too, interestingly.
Absolutely. Because and it is exciting, because all of a sudden now you're starting to connect commerce data points as well. Exactly. And that means that, yes, ultimately all of this activity does need to be accountable to a commercial result, whether it is short term or whether it is long term. And again, like I said, what's the sweet spot between that? But yeah, anything that doesn't take into account the actual physical availability of products at the time that they're advertised, could result in wastage, as you know. So,
no, I think that's a great point, Jason. And actually, your old friends at Amazon, if you look at what they pioneered, and really what has been the huge catalyst to the growth in retail media. I mean, obviously retail media has been around ever since there's been shops from an in-store media point of view. But it was the introduction of sponsored products from Amazon that really kickstarted the whole thing. But essentially a sponsored product is doing two things. There's a kind of mental availability, it's having you to consider that proposition, and even if that's just a pack shot. But increasingly it's beyond that, it's rich video, rich media, quite often. but it is driving physical availability. It's making that brand front of mind, literally, position 1, 2, or 3 on the grid, in a way that prior to the query it may not have even been visible. And I think that is the exciting thing about retail media, is that it joins up both drivers of growth from a brand's point of view, physical availability and mental availability. Just wanted to just move on a little bit to the retail side of the fence, Jason, because as we said, Amazon pioneered the explosion in retail media. But of course, they're not the only retailer in town, albeit for many, many brands, they're far and away the biggest. And of course, they don't have in-store. When you look around the world and you see what other retailers are doing, do you have a set of services that you would like to bring to more retailers?
Some services in what sense?
Some of your solutions, are they aimed at the retailers, or
Yeah, some are actually. So we do have a initiative at the moment that is what I'll start with. For example, our overarching approach to media is and data is open intelligence. Mm-hmm. Now, WPP Open is our infrastructure.
Okay.
So this is AI powered tech infrastructure that helps everything to sit within the same place. So whereas before, we may have had some amazing planning tools, and then we may have had some great insights data, and then we've got an activation tool, like I said, the kind of bid scripts and everything, and then we've got a measurement dashboard sitting over here. Those 4 things could be in completely different spaces,
not
completely unconnected. So Open gives us that infrastructure to be able to bring everything into a workflow, and that's really, really important, for the future of our business and what we're doing. And open intelligence is the approach that's based on, us needing to connect data from lots of different points and lots of different sources, depending on the objective and the goal of what we're trying to achieve for our client. Now, the retail media / commerce element of that is something called Open Intelligence for Commerce.
Okay.
And this is where we're working with retailers and, commerce platform providers to use their data within our media buying workflow.
Okay.
So whereas before, a retailer for offsite or audience expansion, as it used to be called, may just be working with 1 or 2 different platforms. And to access that data, you need to work with that platform. But as you know, in our world, we have clients, and the clients may be, right, we want to work with this demand side platform and this demand side platform only. And, we have a kind of big contract with them and everything like that. And that's how it works. So you're already limiting yourself. So the way that we do this is we can be platform agnostic, which is great for us because we can activate in the way that we need to activate. So I think we already have on board in the UK, for example, Ocado is on board, Tesco is on board. Trainline is on board, which brings movement and location elements into play as well, which is really interesting. I believe we have Salling Group in Denmark as well, and loads more in the pipeline. It's still relatively new initiative, but really powered by our acquisition of InfoSum data collaboration. Over a year ago now.
I mean, quite topical, Jason, I guess, because at the weekend was the announcement of your competitor's Publicis buying LiveRamp.
Oh, yesterday, yeah.
And they've also acquired Citrus Ads some years ago and Epsilon as well as a kind of audience play. So I guess what seems to be happening there is they are buying solutions that are retailer led, whilst also trying to build a business and have a big business for advertisers as well. And is that a strategy that WPP have, that wanting to buy solutions like InfoSum that connect retailers to advertisers? And can we anticipate seeing more of that, do you think?
Probably not my place to kind of comment in detail, particularly on the publicist side of things. I don't work for them anymore. As much as I still have a lot of old colleagues who are still there. I think one thing for me is that our direction is very clear and definitive. And like I said, it's that open intelligence narrative, powered by a data collaboration platform that is privacy enhancing. Mm-hmm. So, InfoSum has patents on its non-movement technology. That's the reason that we've been able to have such great partnership conversations with data owners, because their actual data never leaves the owner.
Yeah.
And that's really, really important,
yep.
Particularly within the privacy landscape that we sit in. So yeah, that's the crux of what we're looking at, from a data approach, is that we don't put owned data is great and it's effective, but it's not enough. You're never going to get the whole picture. So what we want to ensure is that you have that underlying kind of neural network, if you like, to connect all of these dots, and you have the technology to power that as well. And that what that really brings into play is AI agentic agents that can model this data out, create predictive models, things like that. That's what's really exciting for us, and that's definitely the future that we're seeing.
Okay, well, let's think a little bit as we wrap this up of the future, and putting Amazon to one side and thinking of the retailers who will be listening to this, and with your experience of commerce, retail media, are there certain retailers in certain markets that are leading the way here that others should look at? Is there anybody that you think is doing this really well?
I wouldn't take one in isolation. I think I'd cherry pick. Parts of their proposition. I really like Tesco. I've been a big fan of Tesco and what they do. Again, we won another award at the Drum Commerce Media Awards with Tesco. This one was for Kit Kat with our Nestle specialist team, which is WPP Open Mind. This one was for Kit Kat. I think it was the best kind of full funnel omni-channel approach. So with that meant just bringing in all of the different channels in order to achieve a goal. Now, we say full funnel. Tesco call it sofa to store. Okay. If anyone's seen a Tesco deck, they'll know there's like a squiggly line that kind of tracks that. Tracks that journey, and it's great. It's always my favorite slide in any of their presentations, because it just shows you that customer journey, and anything that can boil it down to what the actual customer experiences through your creative messaging and your media placement is really cool. So definitely big up Tesco for that one. I think Ocado have a really refreshing approach to how they're doing retail media, which is great. And I think they're so open to how they share and the placements that they're willing to offer without too many restrictions. And I think sometimes that's what holds us back. And I get it. Retailers want to be protective of their customer experience, and that's really important. But for example, with Ocado, we can use their data to target non-endemic advertisers.
Interesting.
And we can then direct them to wherever we need to direct them, whatever landing page. They're quite they're quite flexible in how we do that. And I know a lot of other retailers are very right. If it's this type of brand, it has to direct back to the retailer site and things like this. For example, they won't allow non-endemic placements in certain places and all of this kind of stuff. So that's Ocado have got a really, really cool approach from that point of view. The guys at Nectar 360 and their pollen platform and kind of using an AI for the modeling, that's really, really exciting, and obviously leveraging that tech. And then I think the final one, and I think the guys who are probably punching above their weight is Co-op. And what I like about Co-op is just they have the insights that they share. So I think there's a report I've been sent that I still need to read. I've been so busy last week I haven't been able to read it yet, but I will read it this week, around how they've managed to distill down customer journeys and reasons for shopping. Shopper missions, I think, is the way that they phrase it. And that's great, because that's going from, I'm not kind of focused just on this individual and who they are, but I'm focused on the mission that they're on. And therefore, how can we advertise to them in the right way based on that?
I think Dean's done some great pioneering work on research. I think they did a research a couple of years ago around the amplification effect of convenience beyond just the stores that are in, which I think was very, very good. And then, the work on missions, I think, is proving that when people come to shop, they haven't made their mind up. They're completely open to, certainly to brand. They're probably looking at subcategory. I need some loo roll, I need some detergent, I need some shampoo. But they're very, very persuadable in the moment as to brand. And of course, that is a important and a great message for retail media.
Yeah, and it's something I spoke about. Last week, was that how do we connect these dots? And I remember the report that you've quoted, actually, because it was so good, and it was very similar to what I'm doing within my solutions role. That might be retailer or not retailer connected, but if you can show causality from your campaign into an outcome that happened in a different retail environment or a different retailer brand, that's effective marketing.
Yeah, of course.
And that's absolutely what they did. And I think they did use Sakana for that. I think the other one that they did was with the eye tracking from Lumen, as well. And that again brought in sort of brand metrics into what they were doing, and just say, right, the brand recall going around the convenience store and circling that convenience store 5 times versus being in a big extra store. That
was showing that in a smaller store, the retail media has a disproportionate impact. I think that was
which is great. And what are the implications then for other convenience and everything else? So I would cherry pick those things. Very long-winded answer.
No, that's great. Some great examples. So I really appreciate that. Is there anything I've not asked you, Jason, that you wanted to cover?
No, I think we covered.
We've covered some good ground.
We've covered a lot, yeah.
Brilliant.
I think I've earned my wages today. So
more than that. So no, fantastic. Thanks for coming on, and let's wrap it up there.
Yeah, great stuff. Thanks so much, Steve. Appreciate it.